when you're playing against the Baltimore defense and they're sending blitzers at you right and left. Zach Orr's just lighting him up from everywhere.
He did.
And yet, and still, he gets the ball back. It's 23-16, and he goes 25 yards to that rookie, Harold Fannin Jr., and it was a sweet throw, and it had some juice on it. And you could see that one throw alone was better than anything I've seen from Dillon Gabriel all year long.
Yeah, that's the point.
That was the point. And then it's 3rd and 10, and he does get to go to Judy, with whom he has no practice rapport at all. And Judy loves playing for him because you could see Judy fight for the first down. I think Judy got hurt on that play because then he became a non-factor the rest of the way, and I don't know why, because then then Shedeur ran for 5 yards, and by the way, his mobility is underestimated.
It looked great.
Yeah. You know, he can move. I'm not saying his father, he didn't get his father's speed, but his father didn't ever have much of an arm when he threw a baseball, and this kid's got a nice arm. Okay, so
the story around Shedeur Sanders' NFL debut is flipping fast, and what's coming out now is nothing like what the online trolls and loud commentators tried to push after the game. Cedric Tillman, the Cleveland Browns' starting wideout who actually shared the field with Sanders, dropped statements that shook the whole league. His support for Sanders shows just how far off the couch critics were from the reality on that field. Skip Bayless, who has followed Sanders closely and understands quarterback play better than most, broke down the game in a way that shut down every lazy take out there. He explained exactly why Sanders struggled and why anyone giving up on him after one night is making a huge mistake.
I think it would help, obviously getting reps with the ones and stuff like that. So I guess we'll just see how the week goes. He's a competitor. Obviously playing with him now was the first time, so that was cool. But, I see him every day, see how he works and stuff like that, see how he prepares. So it was cool being out there with him and see it being a competitor. So it's good. Looking forward to it.
Even the video of Browns fans reacting when Sanders stepped onto the field says everything about who that city really wants at QB. This isn't spin or excuses. This is the truth finally cutting through the noise, and what it means for Sanders' future in Cleveland is massive. Tillman's comments matter because he's the one who caught passes from Shedeur Sanders and saw the chaos he walked into. When reporters asked what it was like playing with Sanders for the first time, Tillman admitted something wild, that it was literally their first time ever playing together. Think about that. The first time the Browns starting receiver and Sanders worked together was in a real NFL game against the elite Baltimore Ravens defense. No practice, no walkthroughs, no reps during the week. Their first timing and chemistry test happened live, with pressure everywhere, against one of the toughest defenses in the league. Tillman didn't blame Sanders or criticize him at all. Instead, he talked about how Sanders competes, how he prepares every single day, and how he stays locked in even without getting first-team reps. Tillman said it felt good being out there with Sanders, and that he's excited to get more chances to work with him. That kind of backing from a starting receiver is huge. Tillman isn't being polite. He's genuinely fired up about what they can build once they actually get reps together and develop real timing. When he was asked if first-team reps would help Sanders, Tillman didn't dance around it. He said it straight. Of course it would help. Getting reps with the starters matters, and they'll see how the week goes. In other words, everyone knows the truth. You can't expect a backup QB to shine when he's never practiced with the starting offense all season. No timing, no chemistry, no built-in trust. None of that exists without reps. Tillman basically confirmed what Tony Rizzo and others have said all week. The Browns threw Sanders into the fire without preparing him, and now the players who were on the field are finally shifting the narrative. Skip Bayless crushed every knee-jerk reaction online with his breakdown. He pointed out that yes, on paper the stats looked rough. 4 completions on 16 attempts and a passer rating of 3, but the numbers don't tell the real story at all. On paper it looked like a total disaster. And the internet rushed in screaming that they told everyone Shedeur Sanders wasn't ready. They said he was overrated, that his draft slide made sense, and they celebrated the stats like it proved their point. But Skip Bayless pushed back hard because he actually understands quarterback play and real context. Skip highlighted key details that completely change how Sanders' debut should be viewed. First, he stepped into the game at halftime against a Baltimore defense that was suddenly healthy and playing at a terrifying level. This wasn't a slow or sloppy unit. This was a playoff-ready defense fighting to keep up with Pittsburgh, throwing disguise after disguise and blitz after blitz at a rookie quarterback. That's about as brutal a debut as you can get. Second, and this part is impossible to ignore, Sanders got 0 snaps with the starters in practice. 0! He sat behind Dillon Gabriel and before that, Joe Flacco, never getting real work with the first-team offense. So the moment he entered the game, he was running a playbook built entirely for Gabriel's strengths and tendencies. Nothing was tailored to Sanders. None of the protections, none of the route concepts, none of the timing was set up to match his style. He was trying to run someone else's game plan in real time against a top defense without ever practicing it. Third, and this one is massive, the Browns lost left tackle Cam Robinson right before halftime. So Sanders entered the game without his blindside protector, the most critical position for a right-handed QB. He kept getting pressured from angles he couldn't see, never able to settle or feel safe in the pocket.
Playing. And so he's in the game, and I don't know where Jerry Jeudy is. And yet, that was a really sweet throw to me. It was right on the button. He goes to the end zone, and he hits him right here. Yeah. And my man Awuzie, who was former Dallas Cowboy, third-round pick out of Colorado, he got his hand in there, but I thought Larvidan should have held on to the football because he got both hands on the football. And if he holds on, we're having a whole different conversation right now because all of a sudden it's 23-all, and I don't know, maybe it goes to overtime and maybe Shedeur pulls it out. But the way he handled himself all the way up to fourth and 5, and on 4th and 5, if you looked at it, the Ravens clearly jumped the gun. They're the left side of the line, they're offsides, completely offsides, and get a jump, and the pocket just collapses, and Shedeur's just like, he's dead in the water, man, and he's just got to kind of whip it sidearm into the flat to Njoku, and it's low, incomplete, ball game, okay? But I saw enough flashes of the brilliance I know this kid has on the last-ditch drive to say I am ultimately encouraged by what I saw. And I hope, I'm knocking on wood for Dillon Gabriel because I don't want anybody to be hurt. Yeah. But if he is in protocol and he can't go, at least Shedeur would have a week of real live starter practice reps to get ready for a game at Las Vegas. And then let's see what we got. And then we can do encouraged or discouraged after he gets a fair shot. Yeah.
For a young quarterback making his debut, that's a complete nightmare. Skip broke down the film, and the tape tells a completely different story than the box score. Sanders hit his first 2 passes with real poise, then the Ravens turned up the heat. Exactly what you'd expect for a rookie thrown into chaos with no preparation. But the final drive is where Skip saw what he calls the real Sanders. Down 23-16 with the clock fading, Sanders came out firing. He ripped a beautiful 25-yard strike to rookie Harold Fannin Jr., a throw Skip said had real juice and was better than anything he's seen from Dillon Gabriel this season. That's a huge statement. Then on 3rd and 10, Sanders went to Jerry Jeudy, a receiver he had never practiced with, and Jeudy fought for the first down, showing he wants to play for Sanders even without chemistry. Jeudy may have gotten banged up on that play, which limited Sanders' options even more. Then came the 2 end zone throws everyone criticized without understanding the situation. On the first one, Shedeur Sanders escaped the pocket with a defender right in his face, forcing a falling throw toward Isaiah Bond, an undrafted rookie out of Texas. They weren't synced because they've never practiced together and the pass sailed a few yards off. But Skip said he liked the idea behind it. It was a receiver or nobody shot. The kind of aggressive attempt you take when you're down late and coverage is tight. The next throw on 3rd and 25 went to another undrafted rookie, Gage Levavian out of South Carolina. Skip admitted he barely knew who the player even was and didn't remember him from college. Jerry Jeudy was nowhere to be seen at this point, likely banged up, which left Sanders throwing to receivers he had zero chemistry with and minimal NFL experience. But Skip loved the throw itself. He said it was dropped right on target, hitting Levavian perfectly in the end zone. Former Cowboys defensive back Isaac Odom knocked it loose at the last second, but Skip felt Levavian should have held on because both hands were on the ball. If that catch is made, the entire narrative flips instantly. Suddenly, it's 23-23, and they're pushing for overtime. The 4th down play that ended the game showed yet another moment where nothing went Sanders' way. On 4th and 5, the Ravens clearly jumped early on the left side, collapsing the pocket before the snap. But no flag came. Sanders had no chance and had to sling a desperate sidearm pass to David Njoku, which fell incomplete, ending the game. Skip's bigger message was simple. Even with chaos, no prep, missing receivers, a broken O-line, an elite defense, and a missed offside call, Sanders still flashed real talent on that final drive. That's why Skip said he's encouraged and hopes Dillon Gabriel stays in concussion protocol. Not out of harm toward anyone, but because Sanders needs a full week of real starter reps to get ready for Las Vegas. Only then can we actually judge him. When the game plan fits his strengths, when he practices with the starters, and when he builds timing with his receivers. That's the only fair way to evaluate whether he can be Cleveland's answer at quarterback. And the reaction from Browns fans says everything about who the city believes in. When Sanders jogged onto the field, the stadium exploded with pure energy. The cheers were booming, the excitement was real, and you could feel the hope from every corner of the stands. Fans have been chanting Sanders' name for weeks, frustrated with Dillon Gabriel and begging for a change. And when they finally got it, the crowd erupted with pure joy. That reaction wasn't from a fan base giving up on Shedeur Sanders after one rough outing. That was a fan base that still believes in his talent and wants him to finally get real preparation and real support. The gap between what Kevin Stefanski wants and what Browns fans want is getting louder, sharper, and harder to ignore. Stefanski's actions make it clear he wants Dillon Gabriel as the starter. He keeps backing Gabriel, even with all the signs showing he isn't ready to run a winning NFL offense.
I am ultimately encouraged by what I saw. And I realized the haters were out howling all over the internet last night. See, I told you so.
Yeah.
And I realized at a glance these numbers look disastrous. 4 out of 16, a QBR of 3 on a scale of 0 to 100. It just looks like a nightmare game. In some ways it was. But remember, he got thrown in at halftime against a suddenly healthy and hot defense that needed badly to win that game to keep up with your Pittsburgh Steelers. And they had just lost Cam Robinson, their left tackle, at the end of the first half. So he's without his blindside protector. And remember, too, he had gotten 0 snaps, Shedeur, 0 snaps with any of the starters in practice, sitting behind Dillon Gabriel, and before that behind Flacco, obviously. And remember, he gets thrown in, as you kept warning, into a game plan that was drawn up for Dillon Gabriel, that Dillon Gabriel was dinking and clunking with in the first half, but Lamar threw them a pick 6. Then Lamar threw him another pick, and then that kid Wester fumbled a punt. So it was they had 2 defensive scores in the first half, and that's why it was 16-10 Cleveland at halftime. And then here comes Shedeur, and he completes his first 2 balls, and then he struggled for a while. But I loved what I saw from him in the last-ditch final drive. And he was talking about that I have not lost my confidence. This kid is clutch, and he has it factor when it's time to have it. I saw it again and again at Jackson State and again at Colorado. He was born for that situation.
Meanwhile, the fans have made their choice just as loudly. They want Shedeur Sanders. They trust his upside, they see his potential, and they're frustrated with how the coaching staff has handled him so far. This isn't a small disagreement. It's a full-on clash between the organization's plan and the fan base's demand, and the tension is rising fast. Now, Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, is staring at a franchise-shaping decision. Does he stick with Stefanski and keep pushing Gabriel, even though the fans are fed up and the results aren't improving? Or does he listen to the crowd that's been calling for Sanders, notice players like Cedric Tillman backing him, and question whether the staff's evaluation is off? Haslam has never been afraid to step in when he thinks things are going sideways, and this could be another one of those moments. This situation cuts way deeper than one game or one quarterback. It exposes how the Browns operate as a whole, how they develop young players, how they adjust mid-game, how they prepare backups, how they build chemistry, and how they handle injuries. Sanders' debut highlighted all the cracks. No first-team reps for the backup, no mid-game adjustments, missing timing with receivers, and losing key linemen with no real replacement plan. Those are organizational failures, not quarterback failures. Tillman's excitement about playing with Sanders once they finally get real practice time says a lot. When your starting receivers are openly saying they look forward to working with the backup, when they vouch for his preparation, and when they defend him after a tough debut, that shows how Sanders is viewed inside the locker room. The players see real ability in him, and they want a fair shot to build something with him. Then Skip Bayless dropped the comparison that hit the hardest. He said that Sanders' best throw on the final drive, that 25-yard dart to Harold Fannin Jr., was better than anything Dillon Gabriel has put on tape all season. That's huge coming from someone who's watched every snap this year. Skip was basically saying that even with no preparation, no chemistry, and chaos everywhere, Sanders showed more natural talent in one moment than Gabriel has in months. If Jerry Jeudy was hurt, why wasn't there a clear plan for who Shedeur Sanders should target next? And if he wasn't hurt, why wasn't he on the field during the most important snaps of the night? Those are coaching and game management questions Kevin Stefanski has to answer. because leaving Sanders to throw to receivers he barely knew in the biggest moments of his debut is flat-out organizational failure. The missed offside on the final fourth down play showed how nothing broke Sanders' way. The Ravens clearly jumped early, collapsing the pocket before the snap. But no flag came, and Sanders was forced into a desperation sidearm toss that had zero chance. Football is a game of tiny margins, and Sanders didn't get a single lucky bounce all night. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, and he still almost dragged the Browns into a miracle comeback. That fight and poise under that kind of pressure says a lot about his mental toughness. Now looking toward a possible start against Las Vegas, everything shifts. If Sanders gets a full week of first-team reps, he'll finally build timing with Jeudy, Tillman, and the rest of the starters. He'll get comfortable with the O-line's protection calls, and the staff can design a game plan that actually fits his style instead of pushing him into Dillon Gabriel's system. The difference between being prepared and being dropped into chaos is massive in the NFL, and we're about to see how massive if Sanders gets real preparation. The psychological boost from guys like Tillman publicly backing him is huge. Young quarterbacks need to know their teammates believe in them, and Tillman basically gave Sanders that stamp of approval. Instead of feeling isolated after a rough debut, Sanders now knows the locker room understands the situation and wants him to succeed. Stefanski is under more pressure than ever. Fans want Sanders starting. Players are excited about Sanders getting reps. Analysts like Bayless are showing his talent on film. Ownership is asking why the backup QB wasn't prepared. If Stefanski keeps pushing Gabriel without giving Sanders a fair shot, he risks losing the fan base, the locker room, and maybe even his job. The smart move is simple. Fully commit to Sanders this week and see what he can do with proper support. The entire league is watching because this situation is bigger than Cleveland's QB drama.
Now you got two throws into the end zone, and the first one he breaks the pocket left, as you probably broke down.
Yeah, I got you, man.
And he's got a rusher right in his face, and he kind of does a fall-away throw, and he's throwing to Isaiah Bond, an undrafted rookie out of Texas. Undrafted rookie, and they're just not on the same page, and he missed him by 4 or 5 yards, just led him too much. Back of the end zone.
That's a him or nobody.
Okay.
That's a receiver or nobody throw. I don't mind that because there was
Okay.
good coverage. I don't mind that.
Now you get the third down from the 25, and he throws to another undrafted free agent rookie, that Gage Larvadan out of South Carolina. I didn't even know who he was, and I watched South Carolina a bunch of times last year, and I don't ever remember him.
It's about whether an organization can adapt, admit mistakes, and develop talent the right way. Sanders was once a top prospect who fell in the draft over supposed character concerns, but no one questioned his ability. Now he finally has a chance to show the talent is real and the doubts were exaggerated. And how Cleveland handles this moment will say a lot about their competence as an organization. And the fan reaction proves the city is ready for him. When Sanders jogged onto the field, the stadium erupted with a level of hope and energy that's been missing for weeks. Browns fans have lived through decades of quarterback struggles, endless false starts, and wasted seasons. And for that brief moment, Sanders gave them something real to believe in. Those fans felt something brewing the moment Shedeur Sanders stepped on that field. And that hope didn't disappear just because his debut was rough. Now that people understand the real context behind the struggles, the support has only gotten stronger, and the push for Sanders to finally get a fair, prepared opportunity is louder than ever. Cedric Tillman's comments matter in a huge way because they shut down one of the biggest criticisms that followed Sanders through the draft. Anonymous scouts questioned his work ethic and his coachability, but Tillman, who sees him every day in meetings and practice, says those claims don't match reality at all. Sanders works, prepares, competes, and carries himself like a pro. And hearing that from a teammate means way more than any anonymous rumor ever will. The truth is simple. Shedeur Sanders showed enough in that chaotic debut to earn a real opportunity going forward. Bayless saw it on tape. Cedric Tillman sees it in practice. Browns fans see it, feel it, and are demanding it. The only group digging its heels in is the coaching staff, clinging to Dillon Gabriel in a way that's getting harder and harder to justify. At some point, pride has to step aside for what actually helps this team win games. The Browns are standing at a crossroads that will shape the next chapter of this franchise. They can stay stuck in the same pattern, refusing to fully develop Shedeur Sanders and watching the season slide into frustration, or they can finally commit to preparing him properly and maybe discover the franchise quarterback that's been sitting on the bench all along. Everyone can see the right choice, except the people who make the decisions. If Cedric Tillman's defense of Shedeur Sanders and Bayless's breakdown opened your eyes to what really happened, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Drop your thoughts below. Should Sanders start against the Raiders? Is Stefanski making a massive mistake by sticking with Gabriel? And what do you think we'll see if Sanders finally gets real first-team reps this week? Stay subscribed with notifications on because we're tracking every update in this quarterback battle. Every report, every shift, every move that could change the entire future of this franchise. The truth about Shedeur Sanders is finally cutting through the noise, and you're going to want to be here for every moment as this story unfolds. Until next time, keep demanding better, keep supporting players who deserve real opportunities, and let's see if the Browns finally make the right call for once. Peace.